Syrian officials today denounced the U.S. missile strike on one of their air bases in retaliation for a poison gas attack, calling it blatant aggression that killed up to 15 people and caused significant damage. President Trump says this is about using chemical weapons, and you can't use chemical weapons on civilians, on children. You just can't do it. And joining me to talk about this tonight is United States Congressman Jeff Fortenberry. Congressman, welcome back to Drive Time Lincoln. A pleasure to have you on.
Thanks so much, Kobe. Always a pleasure to talk to you as well.
Can I get your initial reaction to what occurred last night?
I support what President Trump did. I think that if we have any chance for a hope-filled world that is not at the brink of destruction, you cannot allow a regime to gas innocent women, men, and children. It's horrific. It violates the norms of any type of civilized behavior, and to simply ignore it, I think, creates the conditions in which it could potentially get worse. So I'm in support of what the president has done. These things are always difficult calls because you do not know what the whiplash effect could be, but nonetheless, to stand idly by and watch as innocent children are killed is not only not in the name of, can be tolerated in the name of hope for international stability, but the principles of civilization itself are at stake.
Congressman, there's a lot of second guessing that even started last night. Should the president have gone to Congress first? And the follow-up to that is, in this day and age when there's so many leaks, we keep hearing about all these leaks, can you even go to Congress first?
This is a very hard question, and it's a delicate question. The authorities for this type of action flow out of the post-9/11 period, which justified the action in Iraq and had been extended to go after various terroristic elements. This gets debated whether or not our authorities need to be updated and modernized. The War Powers Act is the underlying law that has been discussed as in need of modernization. These are all delicate issues, and yet at the same time, you're exactly right. To hamstring a president from some type of immediate action that is consistent with the principles of protecting innocence, coming to Congress, having a hearing, even secret hearings, and delaying all of that makes it practically impossible. But I'll readily admit this is a very delicate question.
Congressman, are you concerned that Russia is denouncing President Trump's action? Putin called the Tomahawk strike, quote, a significant blow to the relations with the United States.
There have been a number of significant blows to the relationships with the United States prior to this. I recall last fall being in a dialogue, by the way, with the Russian ambassador about the last thread of cooperation that we had regarding nuclear material and the security thereof. That has now died. The relationship with Russia needs to be revived in creative and cooperative ways. But right now, it's not only strained, it in many ways, it's non-existent, and that's sad. So there's no blow here. It's just reflecting a reality that Russia has taken a decided position in Syria. Could there be a scenario that evolves where Russia and the United States could cooperate because they have a long-standing relationship with Assad, the Syrian president, and help control a certain area that is necessary for stability? Could they help transition Assad, a transition period for Assad to leave without creating the conditions for further instability? All these things could be common ground that the United States and Russia could find. But to simply allow Russia to have its hand and the United States to have no hand, particularly when the Syrians are killing innocent children, it has no impact upon this relationship, which is already severely strained. In fact, it might create the conditions, hopefully, in which our muscular show says that we're not simply going to tolerate not only this type of horror, but Russian dominance of an area with no end game in sight, particularly as it leads to further deaths of innocent people.
United States Congressman Jeff Fortenberry is my guest tonight, joining us live here on Drive Time Lincoln. Congressman, you have been serving as co-chair of the Caucus on Religious Minorities in the Middle East. You have served as co-chair as well of the Nuclear Security Working Group. What do you see as the national security implications of all this?
Something that people aren't aware of is that Syria is 10% Christian. And in the area that is controlled by Assad and protected by the Russians, that's the primary area where a number of Christians live, and they have been protected by this government. They, of course, I believe, are in a horribly difficult position in that they do not want to be proximate to a barbaric person like Assad. And yet at the same time, if they were subjected to new types of control by, let's say, a Sunni-led government based upon a mythical moderate rebel movement, they would be in grave trouble, just like we saw in the eastern areas of Syria and portions of Iraq. So when we look at the complexity of all of these things, you have to remember other innocent people's ability to stay where they are, particularly religious minorities, who are so critical to the long-term interest of stability in that area and the ideals of pluralism. We have to be aware that if entire countries collapse, these are the first people subjected to horrific persecution. So this is another layer of complexity, and I have proposed that the Russia's interest in Syria is not only because they have a long ally in Assad, they are also interested in trying to stop terrorism to their south. They want a base, they want a long-term base strategically placed there in the Mediterranean, but they may have some linkage to Orthodox Christianity as well. This, again, provides another layer of complexity to the entire situation, but it possibly creates an opening should tensions decline and we have some ability to talk to the Russians about how we transition Syria in the future to a more stable environment.
Sure, and much like Russia, Iran, is an ally of Assad's regime, but Iran is saying today that the action will strengthen terrorists. To strengthen terrorists. I mean, that we're talking about some serious stuff here. This is kind of scary stuff.
Well, for Iran to say that is so contradictory. It's almost laughable. A country that has significant that underwrites significant terroristic elements in Syria, in Lebanon as well, and throughout the region. Again, if you think about this, the strength of their reaction shows the power of the U.S. action itself. If this had no impact, if it was not seen as disruptive to the chaos that's already there, then they wouldn't have said anything.
No, you're absolutely right. France, Germany, the UK said that this was a appropriate response. They agreed with the response. How important do you think it is that President Trump has their support?
We need a 21st century architecture for international stability, one in which the United States will play a key leadership role in creating the conditions through strong defense and smart diplomacy as well as sustainable development, for hope and opportunity throughout the entire world. But we cannot do that alone. We should not do that alone. We will not be able to do that alone. We need authentic partners, particularly those countries who have benefited from the sacrifice of American troops and the American systems that have been created and protected, particularly since the World War II period, by our own military as well as our own the protection of our own philosophical idea. In fact, when I was riding to the airport this morning, a gentleman, he's an immigrant from a far-off place in Africa, and he just said, "I love the freedom here. Don't lose it." And so this philosophical idea of what America means has power in of itself. However, countries who have ridden to economic progress themselves or economic prowess themselves on the back of American sacrifice have an obligation to stand in partnership with us. No longer should we tolerate transactional relationships. We should build authentic ones to create the conditions, again, for our 21st century architecture of proper diplomatic relations. It's essential. It's essential that other countries stand by us.
Absolutely. Well said. United States Congressman Jeff Fortenberry, we'll let you get on with your weekend. Thank you so much for your insights. A pleasure to have you.
Thank you so much.
Congressman Jeff Fortenberry joining us here on 1400 KLIN. 5